My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I am 72 years old. Most people don't notice me anymore, and those who do usually look right through me. I live in a small, aging house on the edge of a quiet American town. The paint on the walls is cracked, the roof leaks when it rains, and the silence inside is heavier than the walls themselves. I used to have a voice, but somewhere along the way, people stopped listening. I live with my son Richard, his wife Marla, and their 2 children. They say it is for my care, but care does not feel like this. At breakfast, no one asks me what I want to eat. They talk over me, around me, past me. If I speak, Marla sighs loudly. If I ask a question, Richard says, "Mom, please, not now." So I learned to be quiet. Outside the house, it is not much better. At the grocery store, the cashier rushes me. At the bank, they talk to my son instead of me. At the doctor's office, they assume I do not understand. I hear words like, "She is old, she will not get it, she does not matter." They never say it directly, but I feel it. What they do not know is this. Before my hair turned gray, before my hands began to shake, I was a civil rights lawyer. I stood in courtrooms where my voice shook entire rooms. I defended people no one else would touch. I fought injustice with words sharp enough to cut stone. But age has a way of making people forget who you were. At home, things grew worse. One afternoon, I overheard Marla speaking on the phone. "She does not need to know," she said. "She will not notice anyway." That night, I checked my bank account. It was nearly empty. My savings, my pension, the money I worked 40 years for, gone. I confronted them. Richard did not look me in the eye. Marla crossed her arms. "Mom," Richard said softly, "we are just helping manage your money." Helping. That word felt like a slap. I wanted to scream, but instead I smiled, and I said, "All right, dear." That was the moment they made their biggest mistake. They thought I was weak. Over the next few weeks, I listened. I watched. I remembered who I was. I gathered documents they thought I would never read. I recorded conversations they assumed I would not understand. I contacted an old colleague, one who still respected my mind. And slowly, very slowly, I prepared. The day of truth came quietly. A letter arrived. Court summons. Richard turned pale. Marla laughed nervously. "This is ridiculous," she said. "She cannot do anything." They were wrong. The courtroom was full. Neighbors, friends, family, people who had not looked at me in years. When I walked to the stand, whispers followed. "Is she okay? Does she know where she is?" Then the judge spoke. "Mrs. Whitmore, you may begin." I took a deep breath, and I spoke. For the first time in years, the room fell silent. I spoke clearly, calmly, powerfully. I presented evidence, bank records, audio recordings, legal documents. I explained step by step how my trust was broken, how my dignity was stolen, how silence was mistaken for weakness. I looked directly at my son and said, "I did not raise you to forget my humanity." People cried. The judge listened, and when the verdict came, justice stood tall. My money was returned, legal consequences were issued, guardianship was removed. But that was not the real victory. After the trial, something changed. People looked at me differently. Neighbors smiled. Strangers nodded with respect. Even Richard, even Marla, they stood before me, eyes low, voices shaking. "We are sorry," they said. I believed their regret, but forgiveness takes time. Today I live alone. In a smaller house, with peace. I volunteer at a legal aid center for seniors. I teach them one simple truth. Being quiet does not mean being powerless. Age does not erase wisdom. Silence does not erase strength. If you are listening to this, remember me. Remember Eleanor Whitmore. And remember this: never underestimate a woman who has been silent for too long, because when she finally speaks, the world listens.